Hi, I'm Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. Take a look at this quilt behind me. We got this line in. It's called Venezia, and it's by Benartex, and it was just this wild, crazy line. And I just kind of fell in love with it and thought I wanted to see what would happen. And I've been wanting to try this old block out that is a bordered square, and I just wanted to see what would happen. So look at this. I mean, it's just crazy fun. We've got these little 4 patches that come together. We've got these 2, and we've got these center blocks, and it all is made from one square like this. And so it's really cool. So to make this quilt, what you're going to need is 1 layer cake, just 1. And I used about 1 yard of solid for the border. I felt like it needed a little bit of calming down. And I also went ahead, you can notice on my binding, it's scrappy. So I just used little pieces of my leftover pieces for my binding. And you know, just to me it kind of brought it all together. So let me show you how to do this, because this is a really cool and easy way to make this block with the bordered squares, is what I call it. So you're going to take your whole layer cake and you're going to cut it into 4ths, which means you could also use 4 charm packs, which, you know, might be easier for some. I happen to have a layer cake, so that's what I used. And so then you have this whole stack of all these squares like this, and you have to pick through them and make your blocks. So what I did was I would find a block that I wanted to be my center. So this is my center, and then I'd look through for something contrasting, and I'd say, this right here, this is going to be my sides, and so I need 2 of these for the sides, and then this would make a nice corner. So I would pull this in for the corners. And then what I'd do is you leave your middle alone, you take your 2 sides and line them up, and you just cut them in half in two 2.5 by 5 inch rectangles like this, right in half. And so now I have 4 of these pieces. And then this one for the square corners, we're going to cut in 4ths. So I'm just going to cut that, and then I'm going to turn my ruler over here and come in 2.5 and cut it right in 4ths. So now I have 4 corners. So then what I'm going to do to put my block together is I'm going to sew 2 of my side pieces onto the center block like that. Now this is one of those where as long as your seam allowances are consistent, every block's going to match up perfect. So then this one, these will go on this side, but what we're going to do is we're going to sew these 2 little blocks to the center block, and we're going to do that on both pieces. And then we will attach these to either side of this one, and that forms the block. So quick and easy. So let's go to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to take these pieces with me. And we're going to sew these sides on right here. And I lay them right sides together, and I just sew down 1/4 inch. My 1/4 inch. All of us have our own. And then I'm just going to turn this around. Again, I'm going to make sure I've got right sides together, lay my piece on there, and sew 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to take my 2 little squares, and I'm going to sew them to each end of my 2.5 by 5.5 inch strip, my charm pack that I cut in half. And I'm going to go ahead and chain piece these. So now I'm putting I put this little one on a long one. I'm going to put another little corner one on here, like this. And then I'm just going to pull this out a little bit and flip them around and put the blocks, sew the blocks onto the other side. So here we go. And add 1 more block, like this. Now the easiest way to do this at this point is to press them now. Then it'll lay together really nice, because you want your seams to nest. So what I'm going to do is come over here to the iron, and I am going to lay these back like this and just press it flat. And then on these little ones, I'm going to press the seam inward so that it'll nest. turn it over and make sure it's laying nice and flat. Let me see, I got to get this going this way to get it to lay down right. There we go. And then, yep, so here's how my pressing worked. Let me cut a few of these strings off for you. So here's how my pressing worked. These two seams are pointing in, and this seam is pointing out, which is going to enable these when we put them together like this. Let's see. When we put them together like this, these are going to nest right up together and just lay right smack next to each other like that, where you can see the two seams butt right next to each other. And we're going to go over the sewing machine and sew these side pieces on. All right, we're just going to line this up here. And again, I like to take a little anchor stitch and then make sure my seams are lined up. And then I can just go ahead and sew along there. Line up the next set. And then line up my edge. And then I'm just going to flip that around and do the other side. Lay that on there. Match those up and bring it across. Now we're going to iron this open. All right, let me clip these threads first. Here we go. I'm so bad about my threads. All right, then I'm going to press this open, and I'm just going to roll it back like this. Set my seam and roll it back. And you end up with a block like this. So what I did was I went through and I just made all my blocks. Because we're using 4 squares to make 1 block, which equals a layer cake, and there's 42 squares in there, we're going to have 6 blocks across by 7 blocks down. It's going to make 42 squares. And so that ends up measuring about 55 by 65 or something like that. With the little border on. So I went through and I made all my squares, and then I started putting my blocks together, and I just laid them out, you know. First I made all my blocks, and then I just laid them out to make sure I didn't have anything that was too close. You know, I wouldn't have wanted the, you know, 2 of these right together, that sort of thing. And since this is such a diverse line of fabric, that was really fun. But then I got to thinking, what would this look like if I used a solid center fabric, or not a solid, but the same color, and used opposing colors in these? What would happen? You know, or contrasting colors, what would it look like? So I just looked around in the store, and I found this great bolt of fabric. We have a lot of these fun little monster prints, and you know how many grandkids I have, so I'm, you know, always looking for some more cute prints. And this is Googlies by Benartex, and it's just the cutest little monster line. So I just decided that I would cut 5-inch squares, and I cut enough to make one of these quilts, and which means if this is just my center, I'm only cutting up a charm pack worth. So I cut out 42 squares, and then half of them I put white sides with blue squares, and the other half I put blue sides with white squares, and look what I got. This is the cutest thing. I even backed it with these monsters. And so take a look at this. Look how different that is. The exact same block. Here, let me lay this out here so we can get a good look at it. So this is the exact same block, only I used my googlies in the middle. And see, this square right here has the white sides with the blue corners, and the block right next to it has the blue sides with the white corners. So this is a super versatile block where if you just change your fabric up a little bit, you're going to get a completely different look. So when I made this quilt, I used a yard of the googly for the squares because I needed 42 of them. I used a yard of the blue for the edges, because you also need 42 of those, and I used a yard of the white because we also use 42 of those. Really easy to remember. For the border, it's another yard and a half of fabric, and it just totally changes the whole look from this quilt to this quilt. So have fun with this block, and we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the bordered block from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. I love you. I love you. All right. We ready? Are you sure? All right. How do I say my name? Hi, it's